making it as long as it don't take nothing out of it.
All right, you want to resume with the redirect examination of Dr. Patel?
Before we do, Your Honor, we have a concern with respect to the record being closed by the end of the day today. We have some deposition testimony that we plan to submit, including testimony from some of the doctors who we released from subpoenas, Dr. Dumont, Smith, some of Dr. Stemmer's deposition testimony we would like to submit as well. But before we close the record, we'd like to make a list and submit it to you. I just don't know if we can do so by the end of the day today. And so we'd like to go back tonight and maybe tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon and submit our list to counsel and have counsel submit any objections to me, and we'll resolve those.
I guess, do we have 2 days ending today on the court's calendar, or are we going to have testimony at some time after 4 or 4:30 this afternoon?
What our plans are is to submit our doctors for live testimony, submit Ms. Green for live testimony, and I think after that, unless something unexpected comes up on cross-examination that would require rebuttal from someone who's here or not, that would be the end of our live. And so we could finish up today, leave the record open, submit the deposition testimony, which we would like to submit to the court after having it reviewed for objections by counsel tomorrow, then close the record.
So we're going to complete live testimony today?
That is correct.
Yes.
Unless the examinations this afternoon take longer than I expect, which I can't imagine.
Well, we'll try to finish up today. If we have to go over it a little bit, we will. Do you have any objections to leaving the record open?
No, so long as we see what it is.
Well, of course.
Yeah, nothing that hasn't been seen before, just deposition testimony, and subject to your objections.
How long do you think we need to leave the record open? Till next Monday or Tuesday?
I would think the weekend would be more than enough time for me to get my list to opposing counsel.
Is that okay with you, Mr. Jensen?
Yes, sir, so long as we have an opportunity to make our counter designations. If we have those on Monday, we'll make our counter designations, and I don't see any problem getting those to him by Tuesday.
All right.
Thank you.
So we'll let the record remain open until Tuesday of next week.
Dr. Patel, you're still under oath. Dr. Patel, shortly before and after October 1st of 2012, did you have some questions concerning what your legal rights would be with respect to the transition from medical specialist to Franciscan Lines?
Absolutely.
Okay. And so you sought counsel and you eventually directed counsel to file this lawsuit?
Yes.
Okay. Dr. Patel, the list that we've been discussing, is that in front of you? You created that list,
Yes.
and it's in your handwriting?
Yes.
And the names on the list, are those names of patients who you treated while at medical specialist?
These are all my patients, yes.
Okay. And is this a list show a particular set of patients that you treated?
Yes, those allergy shot patients.
Allergy shot patients. Did you treat other kinds of patients from 2005 till June of 2012 at medical specialist?
Yes.
What other kinds of patients? Patients with what kinds of conditions, I should say?
Asthma, chronic sinusitis, urticaria, angioedema, drug allergies, immunodeficiencies, atopic dermatitis.
The allergy shot patients, what would you say percentage-wise of the total number of patients who you treated do they represent?
Less than 1%.
Okay. And you didn't make a list similar to the one that's Exhibit U for all of the other kinds of patients you treated, did you?
No.
Okay. Is there a medical reason that made you particularly concerned with respect to you being able to contact your allergy shot patients and them being able to contact you?
Yes.
What is that reason? Please explain it as best you can for the board.
Well, allergy shots are a way to temporarily desensitize people who have very severe allergies to things like trees and grasses and cats and dogs and dust mites. And the only way to keep the desensitization is to continuously get these injections to them without any gap in their treatment. And the longer the patients go without getting injection, the more likelihood there is for them to have an adverse reaction, an anaphylactic reaction.
And the consequences of an anaphylactic reaction could be severe?
Yes.
Are there other potential severe consequences than death as well?
Yes, you can get anaphylaxis, urticaria, angioedema, and your underlying medical condition may worsen as well. Your allergic asthma or the allergic rhinosinusitis.
Is timing an important consideration when delivering allergy shots?
Yes. Once again, you can't have a gap in the treatment.
How often, strike that, for patients who need allergy shots most frequently, how frequently do you deliver shots?
As infrequent as 2 weeks, but as frequent as twice a week.
And so did those concerns lead you to discuss the matter of your transition out of medical specialists with your allergy shot patients?
Yeah, the patients were very, very concerned once they heard about the sale of the company, saw the name change to Franciscan, and then came to find out that I am not with Franciscan. On a daily basis, they would say, "Are you still going to be here?"
I'll object now. I think we're getting into hearsay about what the patients told me.
Sustained.
Are the concerns that we discussed part of what led you to create the list that's Exhibit U?
Yes, the patients desired continuation of their treatment plan with me.
And also, was your desire to be able to contact your patients one of those considerations that led you to create the list?
I had a duty to my patients.
Have you attempted to contact all of the patients that are on this list?
I've gone through the list.
Have some of the patients on the list come to treat with you?
Yes.
Have all of them?
Not all of them.
The information on this list is for example, the names of patients. Are those things that you could have gotten from the patients themselves?
Yes.
And for the names on the list, many of them you did get from the patients themselves?
Yes, they verbally told me that they wanted to continue care with me.
Okay, but I'm just asking you for the names, the patients' names. They could have given them.
Oh, yes.
Okay, and the phone numbers?
Yes.
The same is true for those?
Mm-hmm.
And did some of the patients on this list give you their phone numbers?
Yes.
Were you concerned about providing notice to your patients leading up to your transition out of medical specialist about where your new whereabouts would be?
Yes.
Okay. And did you direct your attorneys to address that issue with opposing counsel in this case?
Believe so.
I'm going to hand you a document that I've marked as Exhibit 14. And ask you, did you direct your attorneys to send that letter?
I guess we're beyond the scope of cross-examination. Indeed, this is beyond the scope of the direct examination. So I'll object now to any questions based upon this February 26th letter. It could have been gone into on direct. It was not. As a result, it was not the subject of any cross-examination.
It relates to the issue of notice to patients, and the witness has testified about his concerns with notice to patients and the list which Mr. Jensen examined him on, which was not the subject of direct examination, and so I believe that I'm entitled to go into it.
All right, overruled.
At this time, Your Honor, I move to admit Exhibit 14.
This is a letter between counsel. This isn't a document that this witness prepared. So there's a foundational objection left.
The witness testified that he directed his counsel to prepare that letter and send it out.
Why don't you establish a little better foundation? Okay.
Dr. Patel, you directed your counsel to send that letter?
Yes.
And do you know if your counsel sent that letter?
Yes.
I'll move to admit it, Your Honor.
It's now hearsay. I can't cross-examine the author of this letter. It's an out-of-court statement offered for the truth of the matter asserted.
You could stipulate that we sent it to you and you received it and responded to it.
But I don't have to do that. Right now, this is a hearsay document.
Well, the document is offered to show notice, not for the purposes of proving that anything in the document is true.
It's still a statement based upon memory or belief. It's hearsay.
All right, as far as to establish notice, we'll allow it.
Okay. No, that's okay. No further questions for the witness.
Any cross?
If you look at the document in front of you, you certainly knew on February 26, 2013, or before, that there was a covenant in your contract that forbade you from directly or indirectly soliciting patients or customers who have been treated by a physician during the term and taking any action to divert or disrupt any of the existing business carried on by the corporation. Period, end quote. Isn't that correct?
Are you referring to this letter?
Yes.
What
Number
letter?
14.
Can you repeat the question?
Look at the letter, please, carefully. You were aware, on or before February 26, 2013, that there was a covenant in your contract that prevented you from directly or indirectly soliciting patients or customers who have been treated by physicians during the term hereof.
Whose patients?
Yes.
Whose patients?
Have I read that? Treated by a physician during this term. You were aware of that covenant, weren't you?
I was aware of not to compete with medical specialist patients. Yes.
And you were also aware that you had a covenant not to take any action to divert or disrupt any of the existing business carried on by the corporation. Isn't that correct?
Okay. Contract says.
Well,
All right.
yeah, we'll stipulate that's what the contract says.
Now, when you administer a shot to a patient, is there a charge to the patient for the shot?
Yes.
And is there an agreement that you have with medical specialists that you would be paid the profit associated with the administration of a shot to a patient?
I'm not sure what you mean by profit.
Well, there was a revenue charge. There was a charge made to the patient for the administration of the shot, correct?
Correct.
And then there was the cost of the makeup of that particular shot from whoever provided it. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
And any difference in the amount would be revenue to medical specialists, would it not?
Objection. Let's talk first of all about foundation and then time period, because obviously some of that changed during the events that we're discussing in this case.
What about the time period?
Before you left,
I'm not sure who, while I was there, after the sale of the company, I'm not sure who was profiting from my services. I was not sure who was collecting for my services. I I was not sure who was billing for my services.
All right. Did you receive revenues, profits for the administration of shots?
Specifically for shots, no.
You receive revenues now in your practice for the administration of shots.
Yes.
Every one of those patients on that list who chose to follow you when the shot is administered, you get money, don't you, from the administration of those shots?
We do bill for the services, yes.
Well, you also bill for the shot itself, don't you?
Yes.
Now, you did not go to Dr. Rademacher and present him with the list that is contained in Exhibit U and say to him, these are patients who receive shots. They need to be followed after my departure. You didn't do that, did you?
They're not his patients, and these patients did not want to see him.
Well,
Can't force patients to go see another
I
doctor.
appreciate that fact. So what you're telling me is that before you left, you were engaged in discussions with patients about whether they wanted to follow you when you set up your new practice. Is that correct?
Patients were concerned what would happen to their care because of it.
Can you answer my question?
He's trying to answer the question, I think.
Let me make it sharper for you. Did you have discussions while you were working at medical specialists with patients directed to having them follow you into your new practice?
Yes.
Did you bring to the attention of Dr. Rademacher the patients on that list so that he could follow them?
He had his own set of patients.
That's not my question. Yes or no? Did you bring those patients' names to his attention so that he could follow them?
No.
Now, you signed an agreement with medical specialists for employment that included a 2-year, 10-mile restrictive covenant, didn't you?
Yes.
At the time you signed that agreement, you weren't that concerned about the continuity of care, were you, sir?
I don't know.
Thank you.
Can you redirect?
Sure, just some redirect.
Redirect.
You did have a conversation with Dr. Rademacher about your concern relating to continuity of care with respect to your allergy shot patients, didn't you?
Yes.
What was that conversation?
I found out from my patients, without my consent, without my knowledge, that letters were sent out to all the allergy shot patients instructing them to follow up with Dr. Rademacher. At that time, I received numerous phone calls and patients coming to the office very concerned about a doctor they had never met, they had no relationship with, that they had to be forced to continue their care with. Subsequently, I had a conversation with Dr. Rademacher regarding my concerns about him trying to manage my allergy shot patients.
Okay. Were you concerned about the transition from these allergy shot patients to Dr. Rademacher with respect to the transition?
Absolutely.
Were there medical concerns?
Yes.
Did you discuss those concerns with Dr. Rademacher?
Yes.
What did you say to Dr. Rademacher?
I said I was concerned that anytime you are transferring allergen immunotherapy, allergy shots, from one physician to another physician, you have to be extremely cautious. That's what the practice parameters say. Anytime you are changing the vaccine, or the person preparing the vaccine, or the person who is making the prescription and writing the prescription, anytime that changes, the constituents of the allergen have to be considered different. And anytime the constituents change, there's a very good chance that you can lose your desensitization that I talked about earlier, and then that can place the patient at risk for having an allergic reaction.
Anything else about that conversation that you remember?
I told him I was concerned for from a medical legal standpoint, since my name is on these prescriptions, that if he continued using those allergy vaccines prepared with my prescription, that if something were to happen, not only him, but me would be in legal jeopardy.
Okay. Do you know what Dr. Rademacher did with respect to that conversation after you had it with him?
He went to Dr. Stemmer, I believe, and told him a different story.
Okay. And as a result of the story that Dr. Rademacher told Dr. Stemmer, were you called into a meeting?
Yes.
By Dr. Stemmer?
Yes.
Okay. And were you put on indefinite leave by Dr. Stemmer after that meeting?
I was fired.
Okay. Any more questions?
Is it your testimony that an allergist can never leave a practice?
No.
Allergists are all aware that there's a risk of desensitization,
Yes.
and they're also all aware that there's a risk of an anaphylactic reaction, aren't they?
Yes.
It's part of their training that they have to use reasonable care and skill to make sure that those events don't take place. Isn't that correct?
I hope so.
That's all.
Anything else?
Nope.
Thank you, Doctor. You can step down.
Dr. Sethi?
Doctor, do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Please proceed.
Sir, could you please state your name for the record?
Sethi.
Okay. Dr. Sethi, what do you do for a living?
I'm a pulmonologist, intensivist, and sleep medicine specialist.
Okay. And Doctor, could you describe, starting with medical school, your educational background?
Yes, I completed medical school in Detroit, Michigan at Wayne State University, completed a internal medicine residency at Northwestern University, and then completed a fellowship in my current specialties at University of Illinois in Chicago.
Okay. And where did you go to work after you completed your specialties, your specialty training during your fellowship?
Initially, I worked with a group out of Christ Hospital in the Oak Lawn area, and there were some other surrounding hospitals there, and so I was there for about approximately 2 years.
Okay. Why did you leave that practice?
The reason I left that practice was the amount of driving that I was doing between the hospitals on a daily basis.
What did you do after that, after being a member, or I'm sorry, after being employed by that practice? What was the next thing you did?
I then joined the Elmhurst Clinic and worked there, Elmhurst, Illinois.
Okay. How long did you work there?
Almost 2.5 years.
Okay. Under what circumstances did you leave the clinic in Elmhurst, Illinois?
I wanted to try to expand the practice from one hospital. Unfortunately, my partner did not wish to expand to a second hospital, and so I sought out a larger opportunity.
Okay. And what was that opportunity?
Medical specialists.
Okay. How did you come in contact with medical specialists?
When I was actually working in a outpatient clinic that was affiliated with Northwestern, I had met Leonard Buccellato, and Leonard Buccellato was employed by medical specialists.
Leonard Buccellato was also a pulmonologist, is he not?
Correct.
After meeting Dr. Buccellato, what did you ultimately take up an employment relationship with medical specialists in PC?
Yes.
Under what specialties?
Under pulmonary medicine.
Okay. And in your duties while you worked at medical specialists in PC and pulmonary medicine, what different facilities did you work at?
At St. Catherine's Hospital and Regency Hospital, both in East Chicago. At St. Margaret Hospital in Hammond and in Dyer, and then at Community Hospital and I think it was called Franciscan Physician Hospital at that time.
That's also in Munster.
Correct.
And you maintained office hours?
Yes.
Where was that office?
There were two offices, one in Munster, and then a second office in Hammond near St. Margaret's Hospital.
And you saw patients at both of those facilities?
That's correct.
Okay. Doctor, did there come a time when you became aware that medical specialist was going to either be selling the company or all of its assets to another entity?
Yes.
Approximately when was that?
That was in the fall, I believe, of 2012.
How did you become aware of that?
I had started hearing things around the company that the group was going to be up for sale, that it was going to be sold to Franciscan Alliance.
Were you a participant in what I think has been referred to as a town hall meeting where a memo was handed out?
Yes.
Could you look at Exhibit 13, which I believe you find there on the table?
Okay, I have it.
Could you flip through it quickly and let me know if that was a copy of the memo you received that day?
Yes, it appears to be.
Who was present at that meeting on behalf of the ownership of medical specialists?
I remember Dr. Stemmer being there.
Did Dr. Stemmer at that time inform you whether it was going to be a stock purchase or an asset sale of that company?
I don't remember.
Does the document indicate whether it's a stock purchase or an asset sale?
It does.
Okay, what does it say?
That it will be an asset purchase.
Were you informed at that time or during that town hall meeting that you would have to consent or agree to assign your contract to Franciscan?
At some point, I don't know if it was particularly that town hall meeting, but at some point I had come to find out that, yes, I would have to assign my contract.
What other options were there other than assigning your contract to Franciscan?
I don't believe there were any other options except for leaving.
Were you offered to continue your employment with medical specialists after the asset sale?
I was not.
Have you ever been made such an offer?
I have not.
Are you aware now that other physicians have been made those offers?
I've heard about that, yes.
Did you ultimately ever sign a consent or agreement to assign your contract to Franciscan Alliance?
I did not.
Why not?
I chose to not work for a much larger organization such as Franciscan Alliance.
Okay, why is that?
I had joined medical specialists hoping to be able to climb in its organizational ranks, and once I realized that the sale was going to take place, I felt that becoming part of an even larger organization would not allow for me to be as mobile in climbing that organizational ladder.
Were you ever a shareholder in medical specialists?
No.
Were you a shareholder in FCCI?
No.
Or a unit owner, I should say? Were you ever a unit owner in FCCI?
No.
Okay. Were you in a position to attend board meetings as medical specialists?
No.
Were you ever shown or given a copy of the asset purchase agreement prior to October 1st, 2012?
I believe I received some type of copy of it.
Did that asset purchase agreement indicate in it, when you had the opportunity to read it, that many contracts were being sold that had been consented to or otherwise?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please?
Yes. Did you become aware by looking at that agreement that the assets of the company, including its contracts, were being sold?
Yes.
Do you know if your contract at one time was on that list?
I think I saw an image of it, but I don't know if it was actually sold.
In any event, you never consented to it being sold.
That's correct.
And as far as you know, sitting here today, it was not sold.
As far as I know.
At a point in time, did you become aware, after October 1st, 2012, that you were working in your practice using someone else's instruments or assets?
After the sale of medical specialists took place, yes, that was my understanding, is that everything was owned by Franciscan Alliance.
Okay. Do you know who was billing and collecting for your services for the period of time from, say, October 1st, 2012 to December 31st, 2012?
I do not.
Okay. Do you know when you made your charges, who those charges went to and whether they were a medical specialist employee or for some other company?
The charges I always sent to one of the billers that I had always sent it to, so it was the same person. I don't know who at that time they were employed by.
Okay. Doctor, pursuant to... Let me get this one. Doctor, if you look at Exhibit G, that's up there on the table. Doctor, what is Exhibit G?
This is my employment agreement with medical specialists.
Okay, in your employment agreement with medical specialists, did it state that medical specialist was to provide office facilities to you in accordance with Article 2, Section 2.1? You want to take a look at that?
That's correct.
And does that paragraph state that medical specialist Inc. PC is supposed to supply for you facilities and services including but not limited to an office, stenographic help, supplies, equipment? Those items are stated there?
Correct.
You look at Article 2, Section 2.2, the next one down. Do you know if medical specialist Inc. PC was supposed to provide billing and collection services to you?
According to this, yes.
Under Under Article 3, Section 3.2, which you'll find on the next page, is page 4. States employee benefits. Do you see that paragraph?
Yes.
It states that you'll be entitled to benefits provided from time to time during the term, essentially the term of your employment. Is that correct?
Correct.
Did that include health care benefits?
It appears to be, yes.
It references in Exhibit E, does it not?
Yes, it does.
You can flip to Exhibit E, that you'll find it on page 6. Under benefits, what's the first item listed?
I don't think it's under page 6. Give me 1 second here. Oh, sorry. Okay, I have it here. And I'm sorry, what was your question?
Does that include a benefit called health care benefits? Is that the first item on the list?
Yes.
Did you require those benefits to be provided by medical specialists?
I did not.
Were you on your wife's plan through her employer?
Yes.
So you did not, or, well, let me ask you, did you receive the documentation listed at Exhibit number 12 that you'll find on the table? I believe there's a form on the back that states.
Yes, I believe that I did receive this.
But in any event, you did not require the benefits to be provided by medical specialists at any time.
Correct.
Okay. When that form was sent to you, did you do anything with it?
I did not fill it out. I did not return it.
Is there any reason you didn't fill out or return it other than that you were on your wife's plan?
I did not want Franciscan Alliance to think that I was attempting to become a part of their organization.
In any event, do you feel it would be dishonest for you to state to a health insurance carrier that you're an employee of Franciscan Alliance when you were not?
I would think so.
Patrick, can you tell me, after October 1st, 2012, in your mind, being a practicing physician for medical specialists, prior to October 1, 2012, do you know who you worked for after October 1st, 2012?
No, I did not know who I was working for after that date.
Did you feel that medical specialists failed to meet its obligations under your employment contract after October 1st, 2012?
Yes.
You continued to work at the medical specialist facility at 761 45th Street in Munster, is that correct?
That's correct.
You continued to round at both community hospital?
Correct.
Were you rounding at any other hospitals?
Yes, I continued to make rounds at the Franciscan St. Margaret facilities in Dyer and Hammond, in St. Catherine and Regency, in East Chicago. Those were the primary hospitals still.
Doctor, why did you elect to stay at medical specialist between October 1 of 2012 and June 30th of 2013?
Well, the reason that I stayed there was... may I interrupt for a second? That snoring actually is disturbing me.
Okay. I understand.
Rich. Alice. Is that Alice? She said.
Alice just close to
Rich, don't scare her. Gently wake her up.
Ellie.
Alice, maybe you might.
say that sounded pretty good to me.
I didn't hear it.
Okay, Doctor, I think the question pending was, did you, well, let me just rephrase it and start over. Why did you continue to stay and provide services at Medical Specialist Facility 761 45th Street and the hospitals we spoke about between October 1st, 2012 and June 30th of 2013?
I felt that I had an obligation to my patients, and that was really one of the primary reasons to stay. And I was trying to figure out, sort out with the help of legal counsel, what would be the appropriate thing to do.
Okay. Do you know if at or around on the date of October 1st, 2012, a lawsuit for declaratory judgment was filed?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Do you recall? Well, let me ask you this question. Did you stay a medical specialist from October 1st, 2012 to June 30th, 2013 for any reasons other than wanting to care for your patients? In other words, did you want to provide, I'll ask you directly, did you want to provide an opportunity for the court to give you direction as to what your legal obligations are?
That's correct.
Nonetheless, in the fall of, no, sorry, I shouldn't say fall. In the winter of 2012, did you submit your letter of resignation?
Yes.
Doctor, after the October 1st, 2012 asset sale of the assets of Medical Specialists to Franciscan Alliance, did you find yourself on any Franciscan websites listed as a physician?
Yes.
You have never agreed to work for a Franciscan Alliance as a practicing physician?
That's correct.
Doctor, I'm going to back up a little bit. When you came to this area from your former practices, I think it was in Elmhurst was the last clinic you worked at there. Did you bring any patients with you from there to your new practice?
There were two patients who wished to follow with me. They did come for a short period, and then they stopped coming.
Okay. In any event, two is not a whole lot of patients for someone with your type of practice, is it?
Correct.
Did medical specialists undertake to do things to advertise you to help you build a practice here in this area?
Yes.
Did you likewise put your best efforts forward to help establish that practice?
Yes.
All the money you've charged for and that medical specialists collected over the years, did you get all of it?
No.
Who got the part you didn't get, if you know?
I think it went to medical specialists, to the company.
So you provided a benefit to the company after they helped you build your practice. And during that time, didn't you?
Correct.
You work hard?
Yes.
About approximately, Doctor, at the time, around October 1st, 2012, about how many patients did you have under the realm of medical specialists?
Patients that I would see would probably be several hundred to maybe 1,500, something in that ballpark.
Some patients you treat and they get better and don't come back.
Correct.
Some patients you treat and they may have a bad outcome, even death. You do treat a lot of elderly patients, don't you?
Yes.
Okay. But as an active book of patients, people you were seeing on a more or less regular basis, whereas treating in the hospital was possibly as many as 1,500.
Correct.
Doctor, before you left medical, the offices of medical that had medical specialist name on them, let's put it that way. Did you have a list or a calendar or some document that had the names of your patients and other information about them?
Yes, I did.
Do you look at Exhibit W?
Okay, I have Exhibit W.
Is Exhibit W the list or calendars of your patients?
It is.
And when did you start? Well, let me ask you this: how are those calendars given to you? How do you come into possession?
These calendars were put on my workstation anytime that I had a outpatient clinic scheduled, and so they were placed there.
Did anyone else receive a copy of that same schedule appointment?
I think the medical assistant did.
And who was your medical assistant while you were the medical specialist branded office?
There were a few, but the one that was there the longest was Rihanna Rump.
Okay. So there would have been a point in time when Rihanna got those as well?
I believe so, yes.
Was another one of your medical assistants at Dawn Coronado?
She did not work directly with me while I was there.
So as far as those lists are concerned, you received a copy, and whoever your medical assistant was assigned to you that day would also receive a copy. Fair to say?
Correct.
Were you ever instructed, told, or otherwise directed that those lists were to stay in the facility?
I was not.
Who owned the facility at the time you began taking those lists home?
Franciscan Medical Specialist was the name on the sign, and Franciscan Alliance, I believe, owned the facilities.
Did, as part of the asset purchase agreement, to your knowledge, did Franciscan Alliance purchase the patient files, patient lists, other identifying patient information, including patient goodwill, from Medical Specialist Inc. PC?
That is my understanding.
Those patients at that time, given the nature of that asset purchase agreement, did you consider those to be medical specialist patients or Franciscan medical specialist patients?
Those were then Franciscan Medical Specialist patients.
Or Franciscan Alliance patients. They're all
Yes.
wings of different organizations, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Doctor, in speaking to your patients, did you become aware that from October 1st, 2012 through June 30th of 2013, that some of your patients were aware that you were leaving?
Yes.
Did they tell you how they became aware?
Some of them asked me about the sale and asked if I was going to stay with the company. And I think some had mentioned to me that they had tried to make an appointment, but that I was not taking future clinic bookings, but that there would be another physician.
Look at that next slide.
Doctor, I'm going to hand you what I've marked for identification between us and the 14. We're up to 14? We are at 14.
I apologize. Here's the 15th.
I'm going to hand you what I put another sticker over and mark this thing to the 15. Actually, have you seen that document before?
Actually, yes.
Okay, what is this?
One of my patients had brought this to me, and so I had seen it previously. And what it is, it's a letter telling the patient that I'm leaving medical specialist and that they have basically a replacement for me with a different doctor's name here listed.
And what doctor is that?
This is Dr. Tappan Desai.
And has Dr. Tappan Desai, to your knowledge, ever been an employee of medical specialist in PC?
Not to my knowledge.
Do you know who he works for?
I'm assuming for Franciscan Alliance.
Does that letter contain any information on it regarding where you're moving to, your new phone number, how to contact you in any way, shape, or form?
It does not.
What letterhead is it on?
It's a medical specialist letterhead.
But to your, and just to clarify your knowledge, that's on medical specialist letterhead. Dr. Desai, do you know if he later became employed with medical specialist in PC?
Not that I know of.
Why, doctor, do you feel it was necessary for you to take home your daily calendars?
Well, I was actually in the habit of putting these calendars into my book bag. I would make notations on them in terms of following up with patients, such as following up on a chest x-ray, chest CAT scan, and so this was common practice for me to do so.
At some point, though, what would you do with those prior to October 1st, 2012?
Well, when I did not need them, I would have them in my book bag, and then I would put them in our office area. We had a little basket that you just put papers into that needed to be shredded.
Okay. So in other words, if you weren't going to keep it or you didn't have reason to keep it, you'd put it in a shredder.
Correct.
Okay. Part of the reason for that is that patient identifying information on it?
Yes.
Okay. Is there another methodology by which, if you only had the patient's name, you were able to obtain the rest of the information on that list?
If I just had the patient's
If
name?
you had the patient's name outside of Franciscan medical specialist offices, is there a way you could obtain that information?
Yes, you could go into an EPIC system. The name of it is EPIC, and you could look up information there.
Okay. And just to explain to the court what the EPIC system is your understanding that EPIC, and there are other manufacturers with the same type of system, but that they're basically comprehensive patient care systems that include names, contact numbers, insurance information, history, physical, diagnoses, and all the records related to a patient's health.
Correct.
Doctor, where do you practice medicine now?
In Munster, Indiana.
Okay, what's the address?
1650 45th Street.
Who do you practice there with?
I share office space with Drs. Fadi Leos and Dr. Sunday Patel.
Have you, with Drs. Leos and Patel, formed a professional corporation?
Yes.
What is the name of that corporation?
Pulmonology and Allergy Associates.
Where, if you have to admit a patient to a hospital, where do those patients get admitted?
Generally to community hospital.
That's the community hospital in Munster, Indiana.
Correct.
Do you admit patients anywhere else?
If they end up getting taken by ambulance, if it's a 911 call, then they'll go to the closest hospital.
Doctor, what sorts of medical conditions, generally speaking, do your most serious patients suffer from?
Chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, chronic respiratory failure, lung cancer.
Are those conditions dangerous and life-threatening for those patients?
Yes, they can be.
That's all I have.
Cross-examine.
The schedule of patients you retain beginning in the fall of 2012, is that correct?
Correct.
And you continue to retain your daily schedule of patients on through into the spring and early summer of 2013, is that correct?
Correct.
And then you use that schedule of patients with regard to your new professional association with Drs. Laus and Patel, is that correct?
Correct.
And that schedule of patients was utilized to make telephone calls to those patients, is that correct?
Correct.
And those telephone calls were directing to advising the patients of the location of your new practice, is that correct?
Correct.
The association that you have with Dr. Laus and Patel, are you each a 1/3 owner?
No.
What's the ownership?
There is no ownership. We basically share rent.
So, do you have an ownership interest among the three of you, or do you just share expenses?
Share expenses.
So, as I understand it then, there is no agreement between the three of you with regard to the splitting of the profits of the practice?
No.
So you bill for your services and collect those, is that correct?
Correct.
And the same for the other two?
I believe so, yes.
And then you just decide how much it costs to operate the practice, and you each pay a portion of that?
Correct.
A third each?
It would depend on what the costs are. There are some things that I use that may be...
You're going to have to bear the cost for, and some things that Patel uses that he might have to bear the cost for.
That is correct.
Do you have an office in Valparaiso?
I don't.
Okay. Does Don Hollis have a practice and an office in Valparaiso?
Yes.
Do you have any office in Illinois?
No.
So the office on 45th in Munster is your sole office?
Correct.
Now that office is within 10 miles of 761 45th Street, is that correct?
Correct.
Have you received an order from this court that says it's all right for you to practice at that location within 10 miles of 761 45th?
I have not.
Have you received an order from this court that it says it's all right for you to be cloning the patients that are included on that patient schedule that you took from the old practice?
No.
You were supposed to resign your hospital privileges at each of the hospitals at which you practiced prior to your termination. Have you done that?
No.
Did you advise Dr. Stemmer that you were taking those schedules with you?
No.
Did you advise anybody at medical specialists that you were taking those with you?
No. I'm sorry, could you repeat that last question?
Did you advise anybody at medical specialists that you were taking that with you?
Medical specialist was not in existence, so no, I did not.
Who paid your check?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, didn't you, through your counsel, insist that you remain an employee of medical specialists during the term of your employment agreement?
There was some form of communication sent out, but I can't tell you exactly what that would be called.
Well, you were absolutely determined that you were not going to be an employee of Franciscan Medical Specialists. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
and you don't know whether or not your counsel insisted that you were to be treated as an employee of medical specialists and not the Franciscan medical specialists?
I'd have to look at that letter again.
It's Exhibit 4, David.
And why don't you just read the middle paragraph silently to yourself? Have you had an opportunity to do that, sir?
Yes.
Okay. And does that say, however, their willingness to perform has a precondition of it being understood that they are performing for Medical Specialists Inc. PC, the employer that they signed the agreements with? You see that?
Yes.
Does that refresh your recollection on that point?
Yes.
Now, after October 1st, 2012, did you still go to work at 761 45th?
Otherwise known as Franciscan Medical Specialist, yes.
And did you continue to have an office so you could see patients?
I did.
And did you continue to have staff to carry on the daily duties?
Yes.
And did you continue to have supplies?
Yes.
And did you continue to have billing services?
Yes.
And the lady who had done your billing before October 1st was the same lady or person who did it after October 1st, isn't that correct?
Probably yes.
Do you have a biography on the community hospital website?
I believe I do, yes.
That's all the questions I have.
Redirect.
Dr. Sethi, in the exhibit that you read the selected paragraph from on the second page, this is exhibit number 4, January 9th letter. Does it say anywhere in that letter that I insist that you remain an employee of Medical Specialists Inc. PC?
No, it does not say that you insist.
It says you're going to perform services on their behalf, doesn't it?
Correct.
It also states in here that you reserve the right, that you're not waiving your right to assert that there's been a breach of the employment agreement.
That's correct.
That's all I have.
Nothing.
Thank you, Doctor. You may step down. Why don't we take a recess?
All right.